Bases dropped on SDH, Soccer's morning show. John, here, you there. Thanks for hanging out with us on a Tuesday. And we got a lot of down heres today. We're going to catch up on a lot of news. If there's anything that we missed yesterday that we didn't have the chance to bring to the table that you want to bring back to the table, we can certainly do that and go over any other leftovers from the weekend. This might be, Tuesdays traditionally, it might be that piece of pizza from like the weekend or something, or from the weekend special that you put in the plastic bag and you're sitting there going, okay, I still think it's good. Maybe you just put it in the microwave for 30 or 40 seconds and everything will be fine and I'll have that for lunch. That's kind of what Tuesdays are. So if there's anything that's left in the plastic bag that you think you want to have for breakfast or lunch, that's what we're doing. So morning, Alex, and great to have you here as always. So to let everything break down a little bit, here's your rundown. And I want to also go over the traffic here on the network over the next couple of days because it is going to be very, very busy. So we have opening kickoff, which probably is another round of stupidity down here. We got some news about Messi and friends picking up another young talent. So we got some lawyering down here, which is really lawyering over there. If you want to look in a place like Portland, obviously the big story today is Champions League, and it is back. It is the knockouts. It's the round of 16. And one of the big stories that's attached to this is that on big CBS, you're going to have Manchester City this afternoon. So for CBS affiliates around the country, everybody's going to be watching Manchester City, and you're going to have some folks in some markets wondering, where's my early news? Folks are watching soccer. That's what's going on. So once again, big move by CBS as a part of Paramount and their activity with the Champions League. Manchester City's on big CBS at 4 o'clock, or 3:30, 4 o'clock. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. So no early news in your favorite market with your favorite CBS affiliate. So you've got all of that. And yeah, we've got Buttergate. So Buttergate is still there. We can get into that as shortly after opening kickoff, since, like I said, that's probably going to be a little bit of lawyering down here with one of our targets. And also this is something that I want to get into when Rich is in the room, because I'm going to need some translation and I'm going to need some feedback from a Philadelphia Union perspective. Jonathan Tannenwald had his preseason interview with Jim Curtin, and there were some things in there that we can take issue with when it comes to Jim Curtin and what he said. But I want Rich here with us as our resident Philadelphia Union supporter to help in translation and see if Rich is thinking the same things that some of the rest of us are when it comes to what Jim Curtin said to Jonathan Tannenwald, the Philadelphia Inquirer. So that's the rundown. Like I said, anything left in a plastic bag that's a couple days old in the fridge, bring it to the table, and we'll have that for brunch. So that's part of it too. But like I said, we got lawyering down here, stupidity down here, Jim Curtin down here, news of the morning, getting you ready for Champions League. Your question of the day, give me your dream scenario in Champions League. Since we're down to the knockouts in the final 16, I want your dream scenario when it comes to Champions League. And like I said, it could be dream scenario good, or you could be wishing early exits and hexes and everything else on a certain team. So if you got a hex working, you have some voodoo, you got some dolls that you're poking pins in, those kinds of things. What's your dream scenario now that we're in the knockouts for the Champions League? Good, bad, rooting against somebody? Let me know. All right, opening kickoff, part A. This is the traffic part. There's your QR code. Once again, opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching either on Twitch, on the 280-character app, or on the YouTubes. And so what you do is you take that QR code and you click on it and use the code soccer down here 15. Well, they're friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You get 15% off your purchase. Our friends at Kickoff Coffee, they in turn take 10% reinvested into very cool things, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked, and stuff that they think that is great, and fantastic relationship that we've had with our friends at Kickoff Coffee. So use the code soccer down here 15. You get 15% off. They take 10% reinvested into the youth game, youth initiatives, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, so here's the traffic. I know that Nix was wondering what the traffic is going to be the next couple days. So morning Alex, morning Nix, and morning Four Card. Nix wants to know what the schedule is in Huntsville. Is it Friday or Saturday? It is Friday and Sunday. It is Friday and Sunday, and I will be there for the matchups on Friday. And let me get my math here, so hang on just a second. And as we check in on Blast-Off Battle, and once again, SDH will be your audio home for Blast-Off Battle here in 2024. Morning Dell. And the matches themselves, and this is Central Time, for Blast-Off Battle, Tormenta and Chattanooga FC, and we're catching up with both of them today. We will hear from them in the show tomorrow, along with Dylan Butler. And also on Wednesday night will be the release of the Blast-Off Battle preview. That'll be up on the network where we hear from coaches and players and get you ready for the weekend on the whole. So Friday the 16th, 4 and 7 Central Time. So 5 and 8 Eastern Time. We'll be on the air a little before each match. Tormenta, Chattanooga FC is your early game on Friday, 5 o'clock. Your late game is Huntsville City and Alabama Huntsville. Alabama Huntsville is the fourth team in after FC Tulsa had to back out of the tournament. So you get your local match, the UAH Chargers and Huntsville City. They will be your late game at 8 o'clock on Friday night. So 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock. And we are here's how we're going to break things up, because we've had the discussions. Dell has mentioned the Ocho and being in multiple places at one time. The way it's looking right now is that once again, set your preferences, and it's on Mixlr. So mixlr.com. And it's soccerdownhere.mixlr, soccerdownhere.mixlr.com. That's our hosting platform for the lead games on the network. So Blast-Off Battle will be on Mixlr, but set your notifications, and then that way when we're up and when you know that we're up, there's a place to go. So Blast-Off Battle will be on our Mixlr site, and that's how we're going to be getting things out live. The high school games are going to be on social media, on our social media platforms on Friday. It is going to be Chapel Hill and Alexander, just the varsity boys. So that game will be on our social media platforms. So like we do with the morning show. So keep an eye on Twitch. Keep an eye on the 280 character app, maybe on Instagram too, maybe YouTube. So keep an eye on the social media platforms for where the high school game is going to be with Chapel Hill and Alexander, varsity boys. That'll be on the social media platforms. And on our Lead Live platform is where we're going to have Blast-Off Battle. It is 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock on Friday afternoon, Friday night from Wicks Family Field at Joe Davis Stadium. Morning, Pars. So Sunday, it is noon and 3:15. Sunday on the network at noon, it is UAH and Chattanooga FC. And then Tormenta and Hunt City is at 3:15. So those are the four matches. All of them are going to be on our Mixlr platform, our Lead Live platform. And Friday night's high school football game will be on our social media. Dell, we're going to have to. So tonight, we're going to start things off with one of our games of the week. We've got a 3-game week in high school this week. Maddie and Jason will be on the call down at McIntosh for Clarkston and the McIntosh Chiefs. Just the one game, just at 6 o'clock, and it'll be on the network. We'll be on a little before then. I'll be down there as well. So you'll see all the pretty pictures. So it'll be setting your notifications. It'll be on our new live platform. And once again, a little before 6 o'clock, it is Clarkston at McIntosh, the Tuesday night throwdown, once again presented by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Tomorrow is an off day. We actually get an off day when it comes to this week in high school. Thursday, programming note. JL Mann from South Carolina has backed out from the game at Johns Creek. So Carrollton has stepped in, and it's going to be Carrollton and Johns Creek, one match on the network on Thursday night. And Jason will be there for that. I'm sure Maddie will be there for that, and the Cast of Thousands will be there. So One game tonight on the new live platform, Clarkston and McIntosh. Thursday, Carrollton at Johns Creek. One match on the new live platform. Friday, blast-off battle on the new live platform a little before 5 and a little before 8 Eastern. The high school game, Chapel Hill and Alexander, will be on SDH social media. So that's the programming to get you through Friday. Sunday is the doubleheader with Sunday's the doubleheader flip. UAH and Chattanooga FC at noon, and Huntsville City and South Georgia Tormenta at 3:15. So that's the programming this week on the network. So our new live platform, Mixler, you follow the link, set your notifications, and our social media will be the second location for the games of the week. So that's where the traffic is going to be when it comes to everything. Obviously, we still got the morning show, and it'll be on as it is normally. Dylan Butler joining us tomorrow. We'll get to hear from our friends at Chattanooga FC and Tormenta tomorrow. Thursday, Nico Moreno. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll find a way to have a signal strong enough to get out of vacation in Colombia and visit with us for a while, because we're getting ready for the regular season. So he's on vacation with the family. I think he's gotten double secret okie dokie to hang out with us at 10 o'clock, 10:30 Eastern time, as he always does on Thursday from Colombia. This will be the first time that we will have had a conversation from the South American continent, if we can pull this off. And then Friday will be live from Huntsville and getting ready for, obviously, blast-off battle on the weekend. Hopefully our friends from Beyond Goals can join us at 9:30, and we'll get you ready for the weekend at 10 o'clock. We'll have Maddie in to talk a little bit of Prim and Proper. Prim and Proper will be released on the network Friday afternoon. So that's the week here at SDH. Don't know. Nick's with a question. Are we doing any shows like we do when we go and hang out at local establishments? Don't know yet. If we do, it would be in the in-between day on Saturday. Don't know yet. Keep you posted. So keep an eye out for all of the social medias and things like that about possibly doing something on Saturday. Like I said, don't know yet. So that's where we are. All right. Other opening kickoff things that are taking care of housekeeping. Remember, this is the Marshall Islands scarf that Maddie has modeled and is now an international modeling star over at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. You can help out the Marshall Islands. It's in the Discord if you're just a Discordian people. If you're hanging out with us here on the live show, it is right there. It's the Raise the Fleet Marshall Islands fundraiser. It's 32. And if you're domestic, meaning here in and around Office HD, the Atlanta area, and the Abstermobile can get to you, what you can do is send the 32 here to Office HD, get in touch with me, and then Abby will deliver it for you. Abby will deliver it to your house. You get to see Abby. So 32 each on the scarves, and it helps out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Once again, they're trying to have some activities here to get the national team up and running in our American football fall. And there's also some talk that Lloyd Hours, the technical director, might be dropping by a little sooner, maybe early spring. We've got to catch up with Justin Wally and find out about his experience with futsal that happened a couple of weeks ago now that he's back home in Europe. That's another thing that we've got to do. So once again, 32 for the Marshall Islands scarf. Helps out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. That's their fun. This is part of their fundraiser. Everybody's got the cool jerseys. Some of you have the cool bucket hat, and some of you can get the scarf. The scarf will be a part of production forever and ever and ever to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. So you can help them out right there. 32, and the Abstermobile will deliver, or 32 in shipping if you are interested in, if you're outside the Atlanta area, say, and it might be too far for the Abstermobile to get to you. 32 in shipping, probably another 5. So 32 base. Reach out to me, reach out to the show, and we can figure out how Abby can get it to you if you want it shipped. 32 and 5. But once again, great cause from our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. So that's your good traffic. That is your soccer for good traffic for the morning. So that's the good stuff. Let me get into comments before we get into stupidity down here as a part of opening kickoff. Let's see. Yeah, Alex mentions that Buttergate made it on the morning footy. I'm still repelled and repulsed. I have not seen and maybe some of you have. There are early thoughts as to who the perpetrator may be, who puts the entire stick of oleo in a cup of coffee. And we had the explanation yesterday, which was something I had no earthly clue about. And so we found out the whys involving why you would put butter in your coffee. And that's scary in and of itself, that it actually has scientific explanations that are attached to it. But we still do not know whose cup of coffee that was. And if we do end up with any evidence to find out whose in fact it is, oh boy, there should be discussions and there should be press conferences. We need to have as many press conferences as humanly possible to get to the bottom of this. And if Dax McCarty, if we can perhaps influence Dax to let us know in a subsequent post on the media that is social, we can get through this national nightmare of ours. Might even be an international nightmare, depending on where this player is from. So this international possible nightmare that is attached to morning beverages, we can get to the end of it if Dax McCarty will do the right thing and tilt the camera up next time it happens and take a picture of the offending individual. So that's where we are. It should have made it on Morning Footy. It should make it on every show known to mankind, because we have the brave souls that want to do it, and then there are those of us that cower in fear, A, at the sight of coffee, and B, at the sight of butter and coffee. So scary, scary stuff. We need to end this international nightmare situation and figure out who it is and why they do it. Morning, Dale. Nick says you might be able to make it Friday. Took the day off already. Excellent. So you're going to be up in Hunts Vegas, and it'll be great for you to see what's going on there. From what I understand, they've had a boatload of tickets sold, and you can get like the full weekend, or you can get like one day. And if you're in for one day, you can get a second day. You can get either day. You can get both. And I think that they've got some general admissions that are attached as well. So it should be great crowds. And there's also a high school soccer showcase on Saturday afternoon in the Parks area that is in and around the Joe Davis. So great weekend as a part of their entire kickoff of the season. It'll be great to see our friend Jack Collison and catch up with him and all of our friends from around the footprint. But yeah, Blast Off Battle, the audio home of Blast Off Battle here in 2024, the SDH networks. KFC, coffee sans butter on the menu this morning for, I would probably say, 99.9% of people. That 0.1% that we're trying to get to the bottom of, we need the Hardy Boys Nancy Drew investigation. We really do. Getting to the bottom of the butter and coffee. This could be the shortest Columbo episode known to mankind. If Dax McCarty were to tilt his camera up, we could figure out who it is. Yeah, Del, we do talk about butter. Yeah, Del, the Tuesday night throwdown, it's a bit of a wrestling reference. You know how we are kind of wired here at SDH sometimes. So, yes. So, the Tuesday night throwdown and the SDH games of the week are on Fridays. And yes, Nick's Tuesday. Not to be confused with Friday. We'll keep you posted. Del, do we have to eat the NASA freeze-dried meals in Huntsville? I don't know. I don't know if that is a rite of passage or not. I don't know if it's a rite of passage to be a part of Hunt City if you have to eat said freeze-dried meals as well. That is an interesting question. The freeze-dried meals scare me just as much as butter and coffee, because apparently you've really got to add a lot of seasonings, because these things are very, very cardboardian in nature, very, very stale in their taste. Some folks with MREs, and I'm sure that Nick could answer the MRE question and the freeze-dried question about the texture and the taste of these things. But once again, something else that makes me scared. Nick's might still have some freeze-fried ice cream from your team. Freeze-dried ice cream from your team years. Not a fan, not a shock. Dell used to have some in the space camp. And trying what for the show, Dell? Am I supposed to try the butter and coffee? That is not happening, sir. That is not happening. Dave, it has to be grass-fed organic butter. Yeah. Okay. For the effect, for the boosting of the caffeine after breakfast. Yes, Alex, this is absolutely true. Absolutely true. Alex says, this is the scenario that whistleblower laws were created for. You are 100% correct. Absolutely true. David, this is not the bulletproof. This is the bulletproof coffee branding. Yeah, it is. I think that this is just kind of homemade. It's homemade bulletproof coffee. Dell, under no circumstance will I put butter in my Mountain Dew. That's that just probably would make me sick, just at the sight of it, and much less consuming it. Much less consuming the butter in the coffee. No, that's. Ugh. Kefsey says Jeff Hardy will not help in this situation. Exactly. Delete. Absolutely. And all right. So, and Michael, never a fan of the wrestling commentary and the analogies. All right. So, opening kickoff now and dealing with stupidity down here. And technically, this is both stupidity down here and lawyering down here. And we go to Europe and check in with our buddy Luis Rubiales. And the former Spanish Football Federation president's appeal, remember, it failed last month. Rubiales has been heavily criticized by FIFA, who said his, quote, victim-blaming tactics over Jenny Hermoso were, quote, in line with that of perpetrators of sexual abuse, end quote. Also accused by the appeal committee that upheld his 3-year ban of being in denial, and I'm not talking about Egypt. 3-year ban of being in denial about the nature of the incident which saw him kiss Jenny Hermoso on the lips after the World Cup final in Sydney. Once again, this is Tom Gary and our friends at the Telegraph. Rubiales had appealed against the 3-year ban imposed on him by the disciplinary committee all the way back in late October, just before Halloween. And it was announced last month that the appeal had been unsuccessful. The written reasons behind the appeal committee's decision were published on the website for FIFA. That's why we get to talk about them now. The document says that while making his case during the appeal hearing in Zurich about a month ago, Rubiales compared the length of his ban to those issued to Sepp Blatter, 6 years, Michel Platini, 4 years, as well as comparing his suspension to Luis Suarez's 4 months for biting a fellow player. Rubiales accused the disciplinary committee of, quote, interpreting the rules at their convenience, disregarding fact and truth, and imposing a sanction completely detached from reality, end quote, as he set out his case for the appeal. Rubiales, who reiterated he profoundly regrets the incidents that occurred in Sydney, claimed he had specifically asked Hermoso if he could kiss her and that she replied, okay then, immediately before their kiss. According to Rubiales, he, quote, told her to forget about the penalty she had missed before Hermoso replied saying, you're the best. And then Rubiales asked, can I kiss you? Hermoso said, pues vale. Okay then. And then the kiss occurred. Once again, this is what Luis Rubiales is saying, and that he told the disciplinary committee and the appeals committee at FIFA. Hermoso has repeatedly said that she did not consent to the kiss. The Spanish judge said in January, Rubiales should stand trial over the incident accused of sexual assault, with the judge believing there was sufficient evidence for the case to proceed to trial. 37 pages of notes that have been published from the January's appeal committee hearing. Appeals committee said, quote, the committee pointed out that the appellant's overall behavior during the present proceedings is regrettably in line with that of perpetrators of sexual abuse who commonly resort to victim-blaming tactics, end quote. Responding to Rubiales' claims, Hermoso had made light of the kiss on the night. The appeal committee were, quote, convinced that the player downplayed the matter so as not to tarnish the celebrations. The appeal committee comprised 3 lawyers, including 2 male members from the U.S. and Qatar, alongside 1 female member from Guatemala, with American lawyer Neil Eggleston chairing the committee. They accused Rubiales of cherry-picking evidence to try and suit his argument. Rubiales has repeatedly claimed Hermoso's insistence that she did not consent to the kiss is contradictory to how he says she behaved in the immediate aftermath of the final and her initial reaction. However, the appeals committee was, quote, convinced by the explanations put forward by the player and that she initially tried to play down the incident and or its direct impact so as not to distract media and public attention from her and her teammates' achievements in their first World Cup victory. And the committee went on to praise Hermosa for her mature reaction for being kissed on a global stage. Rubiales' ban relates to 4 breaches of the disciplinary code, as well as the kiss, grabbed his genitals in celebration at the final whistle, which was always mature, as well as lifting Spain player Atenea del Castillo over his shoulder during the celebrations. He also gave Spain's goal scorer in the final, Olga Carmona, a peck, in quotation marks. The appeals committee concluded the 3-year ban did not violate Rubiales' human rights and that its length was proportionate to the offenses committed. All right. That's lawyering down here, at least internationally. So Rubiales profoundly regrets the incidents that occurred, but it still seems like he feels like he did nothing wrong. And the appeal time frame that he is appealing, he says it's disproportionate to the crime or the action that he allegedly committed. So corruption gets you 6, corruption gets you 4, biting gets you 6 years and 4 years, biting gets you 4 months. Rubiales gets suspended for a handful of years, and he says it's disproportionate because of how he wanted to. How do we phrase this? How do we say this? Impose himself upon the female players of Spain after they won a World Cup. Activity like this has no place in the sport. It has no place in any sport, much less the one that we talk about for 2 hours plus every Monday through Friday morning. It's disgusting, and it has no place. No place. And for Luis Rubiales, and this is what we see with folks who feel aggrieved in a situation, yet at the same time, the other 11 gazillion of us that are looking outside know that something is horribly wrong here. And you go, nuh-uh. My response to Luis Rubiales in that case would be, yeah. The man has no business being anywhere near a national soccer program. None. Corruption gets you 6 years. Corruption gets you 4 years, according to the FIFA committee. How he handled himself in a truly gross manner from human being to human being. He's like, that's disproportionate. I'd love to know what he thinks, other than no suspension or no penalty whatsoever. I'd love to know. Walk up to the guy in traffic, on the sidewalk. Bruh. If FIFA came to you and said, I feel like Christopher Walken, if you acknowledge you did something wrong, then what do you think your punishment should be? What do you think the punishment should be? And it'd be like, nothing. Hate to break it to you, pal, but that's not how this works. You don't impose yourself upon other individuals. You don't force yourself on other individuals. You don't grab your junk, and I'm sure that just got us the explicit rating. You don't grab your junk when you're celebrating and you don't grab your junk when you're celebrating a women's championship. So frustration continues with short-sighted individuals who in this case happen to be named Rubiales, Luis. So that's somewhat of stupidity down here now that the paperwork has been released. Alex, almost done with Wrexham Season 2. And on last night's episode, Rob goes into the locker room after the win in Notts County and kisses Ben Foster on the lips. I think that was the one with the big save, the PK save, where he was off his line. And so they got that on camera. 4Card. I think 4Card's right on here. 4Card says they should add 1 year for wasting everyone's time with this nonsense appeal. and he ought to pay for it. All the lawyering time, all of the time that has been wasted with this appeal, and that it took to write a 37-page response, you send Rubiales a bill. He gets to pay for all the lawyering in this case. Morning, Harry. Glad you're with us this morning. Stupidity down here and lawyering down here are in the same topic. We're talking Luis Rubiales at the moment. So, yeah. So he continues to be stupid. And I'd love to know what he would think that his punishment should be. I've been aggrieved enough in the public sphere. I've suffered too much. I'm sure that's a direct quote. He needs to be nowhere near any organization involved in any sport whatsoever going forward, forever and ever, period. Period, exclamation point, over and over again. Bleh. But, as we always say, in these situations, there's a reason that we talk about these things. It is so we don't forget about it. We always talk about stupidity down here so it can be exposed to the sunlight. Yes, it drives us crazy. But it's a reminder to all of us in these situations that you can't let this stuff just go by the wayside. You can't just accept it and go. You can't. Cannot. So that was why I wanted to bring Luis Rubiales to the table this morning. And there's your lawyer and stupidity down here. So that was, like I said, to me, he's a pig. Kind of like Joey Barton, but in a different way. Both of them have no business doing anything anywhere close to the sport whatsoever. But Joey Barton's always going to get a microphone. We know this. We know Joey Barton's going to get a microphone. Luis Rubiales is always going to be in search of a microphone. And everyone's favorite Arsenal fan who likes to hear himself talk and continue to give himself talk shows, talk formats, anchor positions in England, and is named after places where you end up, housing boats. He will give these folks that kind of oxygen. Fine. You want to give folks that kind of oxygen? We reserve the right to have that oxygen turned back on these individuals and have them be exposed for whoever they are. So there you go. That's my number one vent of the morning, having to do with Luis Rubiales and his stupidity. So there you go. All right. We do have, and Tom, we will get into a little bit of yeah, it was bad defending. For 45 minutes, Crystal Palace, I don't know if it was more Crystal Palace looking good as opposed to Chelsea looking bad, but then they came out after and you know what probably fixed the match yesterday, Tom? It was that 10-minute wait while they were fixing Michael Oliver's communications. That was the downfall of Crystal Palace yesterday, that 10-minute wait. Then 45 seconds into the second half after they fixed all of Michael Oliver's communications with the ARs and VAR that Chelsea scored. Made it 1-1 after Jefferson Lerma scored to make it 1-0 Crystal Palace. I still think Roy Hodgson's done at the end of the year. I don't know why they're sitting there. There's nobody out there. You had your eyes on Steve Cooper. I don't know who you think you're going to get. It'll be a question for Steve Parrish. But then Conor Gallagher scores twice. They win at 3-1. Yes. Michael Head, as one of our resident Chelsea fans. First half, blah. Second half, good. Don't worry. Be happy. There you go. So, yeah, that was yesterday in the Premier League. And so now the week 23 and 4 is ready to head our way. Like I said, we'll be talking about it as we go. Beautiful thing about when we have shows where we have an idea as to where we're going, and then kind of takes a right turn. That's what breaking news does. And so we do have a little bit of this. From our friends at the Telegraph, and you know when they lay this out as an exclusive, Sir Jim Ratcliffe gains Premier League approval over Manchester United's sale. From Tom Morgan, Ratcliffe deal is now all but done. He's received Premier League directors and owners' test approval for the 25% purchase of Manchester United. The noise that you hear from wherever you are on the SDH planet is Drew Dickinson jumping up and down with joy. Deal will be completed within days as the Football Association signs off on a final agreement after Ratcliffe extended his purchase offer until the end of this week. And according to folks like Ben Jacobs, extending purchase offers, not something that is completely and totally out of the ordinary. You're just trying to get things all laid out and make sure that all of your I's are crossed and your T's are dotted. United's Class A shares rose more than 6% to $21 in post-market trading after the tender offer deadline was extended to Friday from Tuesday. Club filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission overnight confirmed the league has privately approved the deal. Premier League statement confirming the decision is only expected once Ratcliffe completes, however, which is likely next week. Filings confirm no doubt. As far as United shareholding setup is concerned, the Ratcliffe deal will be done. Just under 37% of the outstanding Class A shares had been, quote, validly tendered and not validly withdrawn pursuant to the offer. Approval for the deal confirmed in the filing offer's terms. Premier League approval has already been obtained, are the two phrases that are there. Document confirms, but FA approval is still awaited. And once again, he agreed to gain complete control of football operations as a part of his deal for the minority shareholding, but the Glazers have since agreed NEOS should have a broader influence encompassing key decisions across business. Once again, Glazers first started exploring a sale back in November of 22. So it only took a year and a half. Ratcliffe agreed to buy the stake, allowing investors to swap out 1/4 of their Class A stock holdings at $33 a share. It's about a third above the market price. 19.4 shares validly tendered, according to the filing, which means Ratcliffe had already passed the threshold to complete his deal. The Glazers, and this is where you put your fingers in your ears, the Glazers are set for a cash windfall of around £715 million from the sale of B shares to Ratcliffe. Adds to earnings of around £465 million through past sales of A's and around $150 million in dividend payments. However, it was announced in previous filing there will be no dividends paid for at least 3 years under the Ratcliffe deal with the Glazers. So, officially official, you have drag-along rights included in the deal. That means Ratcliffe would be obliged to sell his shares, subjecting him to receiving $33 a share from the Glazers should they decide on a full sale 18 months from now. A drag-along right is a provision or clause in an agreement. Enables a majority shareholder to force a minority shareholder to join in the sale of the company. So, officially official. Ratcliffe gains Premier League approval over Manchester United's sale. Also, Spurs are going to launch a Conor Gallagher move if the Chelsea contract situation is unresolved. This is from Matt Law this morning. Spurs are going to make a move for Conor Gallagher. Michael Head. Make a move for Conor Gallagher at the end of the season if the midfielder is still not agreed to a new contract at Chelsea. Chelsea face what is referred to by Matt Law as a nightmare dilemma over a player who could have left in the last 3 transfer windows. According to one expert, Gallagher's value is falling as his contract runs toward its final 12 months, but salary profile is increasing. Pochettino called him priceless after the 2-goal performance against Crystal Palace last year. And remember, Crystal Palace, that was where Conor Gallagher went on loan. They love him at Selhurst Park, and so he scored twice yesterday. No significant progress over a new contract for Gallagher, who Chelsea accepted 2 bids from Everton for in January of 2023. And so keep an eye on Conor Gallagher's status. Michael, no. Michael's already fired up. Not happening. La. Michael wants this done now. Lock him in. So that's where we are. Yeah. So that's your exclusives latest. We'll get into more stuff here as we go. Spurs, by the way, are sure that Ange Postecoglou will not leave for Liverpool. And a really cool note: Sven-Goran Eriksson is going to manage. He's going to be managing Liverpool as the club grant him a dying wish. Very, very cool stuff. He'll be on the touchline for a Liverpool Legends game against Ajax next month, following the terminal cancer diagnosis. So very, very cool move by our friends at Anfield. Ericsson will be a part of a management team, includes Ian Rush, John Barnes, and John Aldridge when they play Ajax, March 23rd. So cool stuff all the way around. And that's just a little bit of the breaking stuff this morning. And if anything else has broken, obviously, let us know about it. So that's, like I said, full morning on a bunch of different fronts. We still have some lawyering down here to get into. We still got a bunch of other things to get into, but it is also the beginning of Champions League today. Knockout stages. We're down to the final 16. Once again, my question of the day for you. Give me your scenarios whereby feel like the villain in Silver Streak. Give me your scenarios. Give me what you want to have happen. Give me what you think is going to happen. What you want and what you think. So that's what we're staring at. Knockouts today in Champions League, and juice boxes, according to our friends at Odds Portal and the Composite. 2 matches at 3:00 today. 2 matches 3:00 tomorrow, and then the other 8 go next week. Copenhagen hosting Manchester City. No real surprise. Manchester City's a minus 417 going in on the road. Draws a plus 550. Copenhagen a plus 1173. The other 3:00 match, Leipzig and Real Madrid. Leipzig is a plus 196. Draws a plus 276. Real Madrid is a plus 131. So we've got in these round of 16 fixtures some really intriguing stuff. Lazio Bayern Munich is tomorrow. PSG and Real Sociedad is tomorrow. But as we talk about PSG, Kylian Mbappe's camp, and this is from Mario Cortegana over at The Athletic. For those of you that might be staring at all of the Kylian Mbappe saga, Mbappe is yet to communicate. Okay, good. Rich Ransom is here. Rich, I have a Philadelphia Union story, and we're going to walk through it after we get through the early round of Champions League. Don't go anywhere. I need you for translation and assistance. Kylian Mbappe is yet to communicate a decision over whether he will stay at PSG or join Real Madrid on a free this summer. Cortegana says, according to several sources familiar with the situation, Mbappe was leaning towards joining Madrid, but influential members of his entourage have been left unconvinced by the Spanish club's offer, which is delaying the process. Apparently, the bid itself is lower than it initially was. Don't know by how much, but that is what what folks are saying. And we all know how accurate folks are. So folks are saying, and like I said, I know folks, you know folks. I don't know if we know the same folks, but folks are saying that this current bid that was given by Real Madrid is lower than the initial. Sources consulted for the article of Cortegana at The Athletic cover a range of voices across each of the 3 parties involved in the case. They all requested anonymity to protect their positions. Mbappe has known since early January the conditions Madrid are willing to offer him. Contract expires June 30. So they've been free to discuss terms as he's in the last 6 months of a deal. You sign your pre-contract, you do whatever, you figure it out. Madrid's proposal was lower than what was made available to him during the club's previous negotiation over a transfer in May of 2022, but it would still make Mbappe the best paid player in Madrid's squad. According to sources familiar with those talks 2 years ago, Mbappe was offered 130 million euro, signing bonus, and a salary of 26 million euro a year in 2022. PSG said several months ago they presented Mbappe with a wide range of options to stay, with contracts ranging in length from short-term to long-term, which remain active and would see Mbappe remain around his current salary at the French club. Sources say €75 million after tax before any bonuses. So we do the math. Mbappe, don't know how long this deal is going to be. Salary of $26 million a year in 2022, but PSG would sit there and say, you know what? We'll triple that. After tax, before bonuses. And we don't know how the prorated signing bonus of €130 million would be laid out. Don't know over how many years. Don't know if it's front-loaded. Don't know. But PSG offering Mbappe 3 times what Madrid apparently did back in 2022. That's the offer on the table from PSG. Madrid's president, Florentino Perez, has been in direct contact with Mbappe and has been the main driving force behind the Spanish club's latest move for a player who turned him down 2 years ago, despite at one point them feeling sure he'd agreed to a move. Madrid are not able to match PSG's offer. We just went over that math. Sources with knowledge of the case say Perez feels that he has once again done everything possible to sign Mbappe and still hopes and believes he will accept that 1/3 the price. Madrid president has attempted to convince Mbappe that signing for Madrid would take his profile to another sporting and marketing level. One source said that Perez has been unusually closely involved in the negotiations. In this case, however, there can be no guarantees, such as efforts proved fruitless in the past. Talks in early January, Madrid communicated to Mbappe's representatives that they wanted to resolve this latest chapter of what has been a long-running transfer saga. Always been to avoid a repeat of what happened back in May of 22. The deadline was not welcomed by the player's entourage. I wonder how that went. It's like, okay, Mbappe has his entourage. I don't know how big it is. I don't know if it's like, like a jury or something where it's like 13 or it's like 8, 4. Dudes all dressed in the same outfits. Insert your stereotypes here. As they felt they needed more time at the Bernabeu, sources are still waiting for a definitive answer that they expect will arrive soon. The entourage didn't like the deadline. The entourage didn't like the deadline. Mbappe gave positive indications to Madrid initially. Mood over a deal finally being reached had been positive in recent weeks. Optimism was such that it conveyed to Carlo Ancelotti that everything pointed to the Frenchman being at his disposal next summer. However, sources consulted say that the player's entourage, once again, it's this entourage. It's like, these are the dudes, I guess, that sit at the long rectangular table first. Mr. Mbappe is not going to be here today. We'll be representing him and his viewpoints. One of the dudes from the entourage that's in the nicest 3-piece suit has a file folder, goes walking around. He's got multiple copies, and he'll do one of two things. Either hand the file folder to each of the Real Madrid folks from their front office, or just look at the number of folks that are there at the table, take all the folders, and just throw them right there in the middle of the rectangle. Closed door, glass windows. Dude from Mbappe's entourage just takes the folders and just throws them right there. Here's our proposal. This is what we think. The entourage. The entourage is divided on how to proceed. Important voices among Mbappe's camp point out Madrid's offers below what Mbappe earns at PSG or could earn from another potential suitor. Like maybe Messi and friends. Sure, it'll start that rumor now. Why not? What the hell? Parc des Princes figures recent weeks felt more pessimistic about securing Mbappe's renewal. Sources at the club recalled the player last summer decided against taking up an option to stay for an extra year, where he has repeatedly expressed his interest and admiration for Real Madrid. PSG, sources at PSG say the club feels relaxed. Yeah, we're cool. We're chilling. Everything's fine. We're all good. The kick back in the chair, the easy chair in the corner, lean back, and then just kind of go deuces, sunglasses on, deuces, we're good. Nasser Khelaife's just kind of hanging in the corner. Protected economically by the fact that Mbappe passed up the opportunity to collect the bonus that was due to him last summer at the value of €80 million. Club insists they're committed to building a balanced project that does not depend on individuals, but has the collective in mind first of all. So PSG decided to be a team instead of Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, Di Maria, and still losing the Champions League. Sure. Right on. And speaking of PSG, once again, Rich letting us know about this, and thanks for the side note. They want to leave the Parc des Princes. They're set to leave that barn. They want to build their own. Once again, you're in control of all the revenue and the revenue streams. City confirmed. PSG looked to leave the Parc des Princes after the city of Paris confirmed the stadium was not for sale, according to Nasser Al-Khelaifi. Too easy to say that now the stadium's not for sale anymore. We know what we want. We wasted years to try and buy it. It's easier for us now. We know what we want. It's over for us. We want to move out of the park. Translation, they want their own barn. Pierre Rabadon, Paris deputy mayor for sports. He was the one who was volunteered to give the soundbite for the city. Sale is not desirable because that would be a decision with no turning back. That's why we have to rule out the sale of the park today. We don't want to sell off Paris's legacy. Parc des Princes has been there since 1974, 4 years after the club was founded. So, you got that. They want their own barn. Once again, not a surprise that they meaning PSG, want to be in control of their own assets. I mean, we see this all the time in baseball. Clubs want to have the whole environment. We see it here in soccer. You want the whole live, work, play. You want all of that for yourself. You're in a city stadium that you put on a lot of bunting. And the stadium is 50 years old. You want your new barn. You want all of the new stuff. You want all the nice things. You want the shiny lights. You want the shiny infrastructure. You want the espresso machines to work. So Nasser Al-Khelaifi is going to be looking for real estate in Paris. They're going to be looking for a place to play, and it ain't going to be the Parc des Princes. And they're going to build their own barn, and they'll eventually move from the Parc des Princes. And the Parc des Princes will sit there as a city asset, and it'll sit there. Hopefully Paris FC can go in there and continue to sell out like they are in their barn currently. KFC, CL shrug. May no team contemplating an SL exit win. David, if he's going to go on a free, wouldn't Real Madrid be able to offer more, not less? This is illogical unless he just gets all the transfer fee as a signing bonus. Yeah, that's the thing. It's how this is structured. You would like to think that Real Madrid would like to offer more. But I think what they're trying to do is what they're trying to do financially is, okay, we know we're in Champions League. We know we have this revenue here. Let's take this revenue that we currently have in our hands, front load it, give it to Mbappe. Hey, here's a signing bonus. But you do that. I mean, even if Mbappe signs a 4-year deal, let's say 4. That's still only what? That's like 25, 26, 27 million a year. So you're still only making 50. You're still only making 50 compared to the 75 that you're making at PSG. What matters most to you? That is what this is going to come down to for Kylian Mbappe. Do you want to make 75 million-ish at PSG? PSG knows that they've got a deal on the table that is more than what Real Madrid is bringing to the table. That's why Nasser Al-Khelaifi is sitting in the corner with his sunglasses on in the leather rocking chair going, I'm cool. We've got our stance. We've got our position. We're locked in place. We're fine. He knows what we're bringing to the table. Real Madrid, for whatever, Real Madrid has and Barca, they're fighting finances. They always have been in the league. Sure, we'll give you 130 plus 22 a year. Do you want to be making a third less going to Real Madrid? Does it mean that much to you? Real Madrid's got some decisions to make when it comes to players. And Kefsi might be spot on. It might be the Momtourage. 4-card. Hates both clubs. Wouldn't mind seeing PSG and Nasser Al-Khelaifi suffer. Dell bets PSG puts butter in their coffee. As someone who is a Marseille guy. So there it is. Mo Salah has returned to training for Liverpool, by the way, after picking up the hamstring injury in the early rounds at AFCON. Klopp confirmed that ahead of last weekend's win against Burnley. Plan was for Salah to return this week. Mo is going in the right direction, we hope, but we don't know that he can be a part of training next week. And apparently you can look at the videos and see that he's training with us. So we're very happy. That last part I ad-libbed. So, Daryl DK, news and notes. Maddie on the ones and twos has gotten some notes on some injuries before I get into my Rich Ransom translation section of the show. And it has to do with Philadelphia Union. So get your slings and arrows ready. And once again, get all your questions ready. Anything else on your mind, put it in the Twitch pitch. We'll talk about it. Daryl DK yesterday. Dude has the worst luck. He's out with a second ruptured Achilles in 10 months. Obviously, he's not playing for the rest of the season. 5th appearance in the 2-2 draw at Ipswich on the weekend. 9 minutes before being sent on as a substitute before he had to be replaced. He needs surgery, and he's done until 24. 8 goals in 32 matches. Had the Achilles injury last April, out for almost 9 months. Came back January 7. 5th in the championship, West Brom, as they try to make their way up the table. So Daryl DK out for the remainder of this season. And we'll see what the recovery is. Another ruptured Achilles for Daryl DK. That might be something having to do with training, but that's just me. I don't know. Training and steps and supervision and all that stuff. DK came out with a statement on the 280-character app where he admits he's been injured again. And he says, one thing I quickly realized, however, how blessed I am to have so many supporters around me. The amount of messages, videos, and comments I've received has been unbelievable. See them all. Genuinely do not even know how to thank you all. Things I've seen have filled my heart and spirit so much I've been brought to tears numerous times. And he goes on for another 3 paragraphs as well. It's on his social media at Daryl DK. And we will we have effectively reposted. So Daryl DK out again for the season. Another tear. Another tear. So that's where we are with Daryl DK. David, can't wait until Kickoff Coffee has a butter-infused blend available next week. Don't encourage. But you know what? Wouldn't surprise me with the trend being what it is. If folks decided to go chase it and see. I mean, it would be like a one-time purchase. It literally would be a one-time purchase. And people would sit there and they would judge whether or not they do it again. I would imagine that they wouldn't. Nashville, by the way, has signed defender Brent Coleman as a free agent to add to the stacks. Next week, we will be chasing after all of the friends of the show. And we will be trying to get you as ready as humanly possible for the beginning of the season. And we will definitely get you ready for what's going on involving Major League Soccer. We're going to dial up all of our friends, and we'll see how well they're looking at the season, what they're chasing after, and how they think that how the season's going to go in their particular bailiwicks. Okay. Alex, what did you do? What did Alex do? From Major League Soccer, their own selves, Scaloni has an interview. We already knew Thiago from having him in the youth teams. We knew very well about his quality and his style. Nat Sound highlights. So Scaloni sat down. The decision in this case was not difficult because he is a player who associates very well. He plays very well with the ball and fits very well into our team. So, his contribution was very good in addition to being a great player. So, a great person, very professional, and for us, it's a great pleasure to have him. So, tape on Scaloni from Major League Soccer about Thiago Almada, Velasco, and what Scaloni thinks about Major League Soccer. So, at MLS. So, quick words on Thiago Almada. Yes, next week is match week. And so, like I said, we'll be catching up with as many of our friends as we can. We'll put out the bat signal, see who can respond. I know who I want to track down, and it's a lot of our friends. So we'll see how many of them can respond next week after Reaction Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we'll get you ready Friday for Friday, match week Friday, next Friday. But in the interim, we'll try to track down our friends for next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Okay, Rich, this is where I need your help. Jonathan Tannenwald caught up with Jim Curtin. And this is where Jim Curtin, and I went through the article, and we'll go through it again. I went through the article. I read it this morning. Jim Curtin said some things, once again, not a surprise that Jim Curtin would say some things, but there are some things in there that I had issue with. And we'll get into it. And so if there's any Philadelphia-ish kind of things, Rich, I'm going to need your translation and explanation, perhaps, as we go through this interview. So, Tannenwald catches up with Jim Curtin. 12 fewer regular season points, knocked out 2 playoff rounds earlier than the year before. Could have led to an overhaul. Bedoya, Wagner re-signed. No one with global market value was sold. Carranza, Mbaizo, McGlynn, and Leon Flock. Nor did the team buy anyone major, perhaps a consequence of a lack of cap space. Purchases were made with the kind of low-resume, high-ceiling prospects the club loves to find. So why do the Union think they'll be different? Was the first question that Tannenwald asked Jim Curtin. He says, it's a fair question. I would just say, though, we've been in and around the top playing for trophies for 5 years, and it's not a fluky thing, end quote. That's true. Totaled the most regular season points of any of MLS's 29 teams in the last 6 straight years, making the playoffs. Points per year average of 54 2/3, the best of every club with more than one season of existence. Forbes' latest MLS franchise value report estimated that the Union lost $7 million last year from Tannenwald. And once again, we don't know where those books are to say that they lost $7 million last year. We'll click on the Forbes link and we'll see if there's any place there. Whether or not that's accurate, the eye test on a game night says plenty. Curtin says, quote, you've heard me say it a million times, so you're probably sick of me saying it. The way that we punch above our weight and the consistency that we do it with, it defies a lot of the norm in the sport of soccer. So Curtin says you punch above your weight. I'm not necessarily sold on that. I think your weight is what your weight is. Your approach is what your approach is. You have a philosophy, which means that you bring in a certain kind of player. What the weight of that player is, and I mean that in the sense of value, not 185 pounds at 6'2". The philosophy of the Philadelphia Union is academy, bring those folks up, have them integrate, be successful with that integration, have them fit into what Philadelphia wants to do as a club, and bring in individuals, once again, as it was phrased by Tannenwald, as the low resume, high ceiling prospects. You're looking for dudes that fit a certain type of DNA. And when you can bring in a Michael Ua, when you can bring in players from overseas, they're fitting your DNA. It's not like you're spending, 15 or $20 million to bring in someone. You're spending $7, but that $7 is toward an individual that is going to help you in your system play at a certain level. You have a specific task to do. You have to be physical. You've got to be clinical with your shots. If you're at the back, you've got to be 6'9". Glesnes, Wagner, everybody. You've got to be 6'9", you've got to be a Sequoia, and you've got to be able to launch from 25 or 30. It is a certain archetype that Philadelphia has. So I don't think Philly is punching above their weight, as Curtin alludes, and Rich says that Curtin's been throwing subliminal shots at ownership, asking for more help all offseason. I think that Jim Curtin has an archetype. Jim Curtin has an individual to fit his system. And you have your analytics to sit there and say, okay, these guys overseas, or these guys south of the equator, and say South America, Central America, these guys fit my system. What can I spend in my system? And this is where those shots may be coming in from Curtin. But you're spending, I think it was, $7 million to bring in Michael Ua to help you out systematically. You made a great trade with Inter Miami to bring in Carranza. That was a great deal to bring in Carranza. But punching above your weight, I don't think that's necessarily true. You are who you are systematically or systemically. And you're accomplishing what you're doing. When you have to play teams more than once in a postseason setup where you can be found out and you can't be yourselves, you can be yourselves in match to match to match, but in a series, you can't be yourself, especially if you have officials who are calling the match the way that it should be and playing back to back and teams learning against each other, those kinds of things. That's why I think it's troublesome for Philadelphia when they get into the playoffs. And Dell says it reminds him of Billy Beane in Moneyball. Maybe Jim Curtin will be the Billy Beane of MLS. Rich says punching above your weight is Curtin's shot at ownership going, we've hit the bar. It's a group that recognizes, Tannenwald continues, it's a group that recognizes what expectations are in our team now. The fans are no longer going to be happy with just making the playoffs. I didn't think they were ever just happy making the playoffs, especially with the run that you made in previous years. Jim has no player decision-making at all. It's all Ernst Tanner. Like I said, this is Rich helping us translate this when it comes to Philadelphia and Jim Curtin. Fans are no longer going to be happy with just making the playoffs. They want a trophy. They want to win a championship. I would have hoped that would have been the desire every single year, chasing after a championship. Growing a cash crop, and this is what we were discussing with the players coming up from the twos and Bethlehem and the academy. Aaronsons, McKenzie, Trusty, DeVries, Fontana. Take those players, move them on, reinvest. And that's what the Union have been doing. They've been selling those players on, getting those fees. But the question is, where do you reinvest? 4-card. Philly likes to pretend to be underdogs. Rocky BS being consistently at the top is the definition of favorite, not an underdog. MLS underdog, according to Rich going back and forth with 4-card, MLS underdog beating the teams with the fancy names and the DPs, like Messi and friends. So Zach Steffen. Ferris Mumbanya is someone that's mentioned by Tannenwald out of Montverde Academy. Went to Europe. Marseille bought him for 8.6. Played in AFCON. Only Vasquez, Pierre, Rick, and 14-year-old Kevin Sullivan. Definitely Kevin Sullivan. Curtin admits, I think it's no secret we have this good wave of young talent coming up, but we have to find the right time to get them minutes. This is the contradiction, seemingly, that Tannenwald chases after with Jim Curtin. Trying to find them minutes. Schedule compression traditionally will do that for you. Cup competitions traditionally will do that for you. But he had Alejandro Bedoya, 2 injuries, 39 matches, 2,700 minutes. Glesnes, 43 matches, sports hernia. Gazdag, 48, Jack Elliott, 47. So that's what you're looking at. Now, this was the other thing in the article that I raised my eyebrow at. Doesn't help that, and this is Tannenwald once again, doesn't help that Europe's often wild transfer market cooled down this winter. In the old days, someone would have bought Carranza just for the sake of it. Not necessarily true. I think that if someone, much to Jonathan Tannenwald's writing here, I think Julian Carranza, it's not just Europe. Major League Soccer is displaying itself and its talent pool to more than just Europe. However, for whatever reason, Jonathan seems to be locked into the European idea. Yes, during the European window, the amount of money that was spent specifically in England was maybe 20% that it was the year before. I understand where Jonathan is coming from here, but that's not a universal truth. And to just look at England and Europe is being short-sighted to the talent pools, not just in Philadelphia, but in Major League Soccer. So, Jonathan continues. He says someone would have just bought Carranza just for the sake of it. Perhaps if there was European interest. If there was South American interest, the situation might have been different. Curtin, we haven't sold someone recently, but we're not just going to sell for the sake of selling. It has to be a good deal. In the global market right now, it's dead. That's not true. Jim Curtin says the global market right now, it's dead. No, it is not. What you have in this particular situation, and Rich, I'll keep noting, keep doing your Cliff's notes here as we go. What Jim Curtin is alluding to right now, the global market right now, it's dead. I would disagree. And it plays into the theory that is being put forth earlier in the article about finding the right deals. And what we're talking about here with Jim Curtin, finding the right deals, finding the right players that meet your systems. I don't think that, and I keep coming back to Michael Ua as a pickup. And like I said, and Carranza inside the league as a pickup. Those were economical pickups. You look at the roster and how it was assembled. You've made some good value selections, and they've grown into, in addition to the folks that have come up from the academy, you've made some good value selections, and you've done well. I mean, we get into the whole Kai Wagner thing. He was being looked at by teams over in Europe. But right now, it's not dead. It is where you look. It is where you look. You are looking for inbound, outbound, obviously, in the economy these days, especially with FFP and the profit and sustainability, PSR or FSR. You're looking for inbound, you're looking for bargains. You're looking for distressed assets. And this is where I think if you were a club that had this kind of approach, and this is where I'll compare Atlanta United and Philadelphia Union. Atlanta United and the front office went after, I'll give you the two guys that immediately pop into my head. Stian Gregerson and Bart Sliech. If I'm not mistaken, the total price on both of those individuals was $6 million. 3.5, I think, to Legia Warsaw, plus a percentage of the pass. 2.5 to Bordeaux for Gregerson. So that's $6 million. In the past, Philadelphia has spent $7 bringing in a top scorer. I think that it's up to the front office of each individual franchise to look to fit what's going on within their own economic systems. So if you're looking for players as Ernst Tanner should be to help out his head coach, then I would posit that there are places to look where you can find distressed assets that fit your system and you won't have to break the bank. This to me seems, and once again, this might be part of Jim Curtin firing a shot at the front office. This to me seems like inactivity or not looking under the right rocks. Jim Curtin wants to say, hey, look at this rock, Ernst. And Ernst goes and looks over someplace else, over by the stream off to his right. You got to look for those distressed assets. You have to think of today's marketplace with a dead transfer market, the global transfer market being dead. You've got to look in those places that assets are distressed. What's good for you in these situations is going to a Bordeaux who is trying to keep itself afloat, frankly, in Ligue 2. And I mean, this has probably turned itself into economics down here. You know, something Keynesian today, trickle down economics. But you look at a team like Bordeaux. Bordeaux is 13th in Ligue 2. They've had a decent run of form. They're still 13th. And they're 7 points clear of relegation. They picked up some steam recently. But you go to a Bordeaux and you find assets that you think will help you through your analytics, and you only drop $2.4 million, allegedly, possibly, probably. We don't know the full deal, but we know it's been released. You go to Legia Warsaw, pick up a defensive midfielder. You pick up a midfielder who knows about European competition for $3.5 million. He wanted the challenge of coming to Major League Soccer. It's two players, $6 million to help you out in your system. So you're seeing that with Atlanta, and thank you, Rich, for translating. Let me come back into Rich's Cliff's notes here. The Union have been known to be right for the right deal team with regarding transfers. Waiting for the right deal when it comes to transfers. That seems too reactive for me. If there is something that you need to do, and like I said, this might be more Ernst Tanner than it is Jim Curtin. If there is a certain individual that you think you need, the certain kind of fit, then that should be the kind of guy that you're chasing after. Find that fit in a distressed asset situation. Ernst Tanner is their sporting director. Ernst is Ernst Tanner, Dell. In Philadelphia Union, we'll get into Rich. Let Dell know what the breakdown is for the ownership group. But for me, it comes down to if the global market is dead, which I don't think it is, you've got to know where to shop and you've got to know where to look. And like I said, that to me might be more a sporting director, Ernst Tanner kind of a thing than chasing after, a player that Jim Curtin wants. If Jim Curtin was to have marked down a player and you're like, hey, how about this guy as a part of the process? Encouraging Ernst Tanner to go and chase after an individual like that guy that he might have been earmarked. Jay Sugarman, real estate guy from New York. Thank you, Rich. It seems like it's inactivity on the side of the Union front office and chasing after dudes. Instead of waiting for the right deal, you could probably find one or two right deals that would be economic. And Rich says after all of that, Union signed a player from the Spanish 3rd Division. So who the blank knows? But to me, in this article with Jonathan Tannewald, I would disagree the global market is dead. I would disagree. You've got to know where to look, and you've got to go, and you've got to look, and you've got to do the legwork. So I think that there's that disconnect involving the head coach and wanting certain players and knowing certain players that the sporting director will bring in, and Atlanta United can bring in two for less than that one player to fit the needs that you're doing. So the players are out there. So wherever the disconnect is and why the conversations aren't what they are, I'm to a degree, I'm still shocked that Jim Curtin wanted to stay as head coach because of all of this angst that is going on between Jim Curtin and Ernst Tanner. Last point from Curtin. There's only a few leagues in the world right now that will grossly overpay for players. Obviously, Saudi Arabia. I would say England still makes wild, brash decisions, and it's actually MLS. I'll keep going, but I'm going to come back to that. I think that's a good thing for our league to be in that category where we have owners that are willing to pay for players, Curtin says. And then Jonathan goes back into the whole idea of selling players, reinvesting, having that capital to find other players, that kind of a thing. So that cycle that is there. Biggest need, I get the comment of it's too many times running it back, but this group knows how to get in and get out. Now we do have to take that next step, whatever that means. He knows that means scoring more goals. So let's go back. The last quote with Jim Curtin about Major League Soccer. There's only a few leagues in the world right now that will grossly overpay for players. Obviously, Saudi Arabia. Agree. I would say England still makes wild, brash decisions, especially interleague decisions within trading for one to the other, grossly over-evaluating their own. Declan Rice, $100 million. Once again, that's inside the league where you have those kinds of things. And Chelsea, who wants to spend, Bully Clear Lake wants to spend all the money. Sorry, Michael. And actually, it's MLS. Yes. But the thing is, and Rich says, the translation, do what Miami is doing. I hate to break it to Jim Curtin, but there are different ways of being successful. Yes, there are some clubs that do not spend money. Philadelphia being one of them by comparison, Sugarman, Durant et al. But you've proven that you can get to a certain place, which includes the last game of the year, with the system that you have. It is a successful way of going about things. GTSR God, first off, welcome from Paraguay. On occasion, I do know, and we do get to watch South American soccer as a bit of a sidebar. We do know the soccer team Olympia. We know the one in Central America and the one in South America, so we do get the chance to watch them. So Jim Curtin says, do what Miami's doing. For a team that apparently lost $7 million last year, according to the Forbes valuation, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. And I know that that is something that Philadelphia, I would imagine they're not interested in, that they're not all that fired up about spending after having lost $7 million, allegedly, possibly, probably, when it comes to value. With LAFC being valued at $1.2 billion and Messi and friends at $1.03. Atlanta United increased in value 6% on revenue of $95 million, operating income of $9 million, worth $900 million. So Philadelphia, 2023 revenue, according to Forbes, $69 million. Nice. Operating income -7. Jay Sugarman and Richard Leibovitz, your key owners. And so they are right now the 12th, according to Forbes, the 12th highest valued franchise in Major League Soccer. Still upper half, $670 million. But last year, on 2023 revenue, your operating income was a -7. That's not the kind of thing that you want. So I understand why Sugarman, Leibovitz et al. Are kind of skittish about doing these kinds of things. So there are teams that will spend. And I can guarantee you these days, I can guarantee you that if it ever came to a day where Sugarman, Leibovitz et al. Wanted to sell, that someone would step up and buy them. Someone would step up and buy the Union at 670 to 700. They would do that because for every individual that we look at in Major League Soccer that doesn't spend money, others would definitely do it. Rich mentions also building a new training center and field house on the property. So money's going to that. Understood. But if you look at, let's look at the teams. LAFC, we know they're going to spend money. They got to spend money right now because they've only got like 18 players on their roster. They're going to spend money. Messi and friends, they're going to spend money. Looks like they're going to bring in Redondo from Argentinos Juniors as a U22, and they're going to sign him. They're going to spend $8 million and get him from Argentinos Juniors and bring him in. So once again, everybody's going to look at Messi and friends and go, how did you get Redondo? Real Madrid is sitting there staring. We thought we had Redondo, but we don't. Cesar Luis Merlo reported that yesterday. So once again, going into Central and South America, looking for talent, you end up with Messi and friends getting a true talented player, Federico Redondo from Argentinos Juniors. Agreement with Argentinos Juniors, documents being exchanged. Argentinos Juniors, $8 million US, 15% of the pass. So Federico Redondo coming to Messi and friends to be a part of this. And everybody's going to sit there and go, how are you fitting him in? Well, he's a U22. I imagine he's going to be a U22. So only $200,000 of whatever they want to pay him goes into the cap. That's how this one happens. You need help. You're getting Federico Redondo from Argentinos Juniors. He's probably a U22. LA Galaxy, they're going to spend money. They're owned by AEG, Anschutz Entertainment Group. Atlanta United, they're going to spend, but they're going to do it wisely within the system. They're going to spend big on some positions, other positions where they have value. So Atlanta United does it both ways, actually 3 ways. Finding the talented strikers, finding the talented midfielders, finding the pieces that fit, and developing from within. So all 3 ways Atlanta United does things. Right now, they're valued at $900 million. NYC, valued at number 5, once again, City Football Group. Right now, NYC, because they're building the stadium at Dillon Butler Estates, may not be investing as much as they have previously in NYC. Operating income last year for NYC at a minus $9 million. When you play in Yankee Stadium and you play in Citi Field and no one comes to watch, that's why. That's why you're building Dillon Butler Estates. Seattle, $2 million operating income profit. Number 6, 1-year change in value of 19% in value. DC United, Jason Levy and Stephen Kaplan, somehow made a $10 million profit last year. Probably sell-ons. Because people aren't going to Audi Field. You don't have a good product. But right now, because you're in DC and you have your own barn, you're number 7 at 775. Austin FC, spending money, chasing after the large offensive talents. They still made a $3 million profit last year. They're at number 8. Toronto FC lost $12 million last year. They're an example of how to spend poorly. Poorly, bad chemistry, bad coaching. It was a train wreck. But they're still worth $725 million. Owned by Rogers, Bell, and Larry Tannenbaum and Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. Charlotte right now is 10th, $6 million profit, valued at $690. St. Louis, they're doing things their way. It's a very Red Bullsian system, and this is what we talk about with wanting to spend money versus system versus development. City 2, they're developing from within. They have a very Red Bullsian system. That's how they do their thing. So that's 11. We got to Philly. Portland is in a transition right now with the Paulsons, trying to figure out who they are and what they want to do with spending. Cincinnati looks like they want to spend. They turned a $10 million profit last year. Crew lost $6 million to win a championship. Sporting, they're not going to be signing any DPs. Peter Vermes said yesterday, not looking like they're going to be signing any DPs before the season starts. They're going to get off to their traditional slow start. They're going to find some value in the summer window. Then they're going to make their rush. It'll be zombie Sporting all over again. Minnesota United, I don't know. They're awful. They're still on their substitute teacher. Players are still gradually now coming into camp. I don't know about Minnesota. Nashville broke even last year. They need help. Red Bulls, once again, very Red Bullsian system. They are who they are. Houston lost $10 million. 2023 operating income minus $10 million. But they also went up in 20. They also went up 20% in value. Houston, they want to spend splashy money with a new owner. I think right now they're looking at trying to find ways, and we'll catch up with Glenn Davis about this hopefully next week. Find out about putting butts in seats. The Revs, they're in the middle of nowhere. Apparently they broke even last year. I don't know how. Fire, they broke even last year apparently. I don't know how. Value increased 20%. Joe Mansueto is spending money like it gives him a rash to have it in his pocket. Let's see how all of this spending, it reminds me of Nottingham Forest. Spend all this money, we'll see what happens. San Jose lost $5 million last year. John Fisher, Katie Hall. John Fisher has other things he's trying to focus on, like the Oakland A's, and screwing that up. FC Dallas lost $9 million last year, but they had a 25% change in value. Deep runs and will do that. Player development is how Dallas does it. Bringing in the marketed player that fits their budget and the system that's there. So once again, that's the three ways about going at it with Dallas. RSL, Blitzer and Smith broke even last year. You know that they're going to want to try to spend money to bring folks in. Orlando City lost $3 million last year. The Wilfs need to sell Orlando and buy Minnesota and help them out. CF Montreal, it's Joey Saputo. He'll lose money. He'll spend money. He won't care. Vancouver lost $14 million last year. Kerfoot and Mallet. But it was still a 2% increase in the value of the franchise. Colorado finally spending money at 29, lost $5 million last year, and the Cronkies are spending money at 29. So in looking at all of those different teams and all those different approaches, for Philadelphia, I can guarantee you that someone will want to buy them if the current group wants to sell. Rich. Sugarman and Leibovitz are hesitant to sign a high-priced DP after Marco Fabian. Honestly, if a big signing doesn't, it would hurt the owners' personal finances significantly, and that's what scares them if it doesn't work. And that's why I think, once again, if Sugarman and Leibovitz ever got somebody to walk over to them and hand them a check, they would sell. Right now in Philly, you're kind of in the in-betweens. You have a successful franchise with the system that you have implemented. But now, with the academy continuing to bring talent in, what do? Now it seems like it's a combination of the ownership group and Ernst Tanner. And frankly, there needs to be more interaction between Curtin Tanner and the ownership group about spending. But once again, you found those folks in the past. I don't know why things are so markedly different. Rich says union owners are waiting for MLS expansion to end, waiting to see how much the next franchise goes for. Yeah. And so that's a detriment to the franchise, even though you have a system in place. You can only get to a certain point. David says, sounds like excuses, Jim, and we know excuses are like blank holes. And the union, yes, the unions go, yes. Yes. Opinions are like blank holes, and everybody's got one. So what I did with this deep dive is look at the two main quotes that I got from Jim Curtin that are disappointing. Discuss it, and once again, thank you, Rich, for translating as we go. But it's disappointing that he would assume that the global market is dead, at least publicly anyway. But It is not within your system to do what Miami is doing. Messi and friends are on an entirely different planet. And if you pin yourself to try to be like that, you will fail. If you don't have what the Moss brothers have, and also when we get into the discussions about cap and personnel and salary figures and NIL deals and all that kind of stuff. What Messi and friends is a three-dimensional approach to the salary cap and the salary structure of Major League Soccer. You want to play that game? You better be prepared to sit there and be the most creative financially that you have ever been. You find all the actuaries and accountants inside your arm's reach. Because the Moss brothers are setting money on fire, kind of like Chicago, but Chicago is doing it in an entirely different way. Chicago is trying to put money on fire. They're trying to set money on fire and bring folks in. LAFC needs to just spend money anyway to bring folks in. Chicago is spending money, setting it on fire, and trying to fill out a roster. Why you're spending all the gam that they're spending on bringing in all these players, Chicago for me is going to be a really interesting case study. But Chicago's way of setting money on fire and bringing in players is far different than what Messi and friends are doing and what the Moss brothers are doing. And you can do that, but you got to have a younger owner that doesn't care that he's setting money on fire. I mean, who's the crypto dude? Blankman Fried? Somebody like that? Who would, it's like, yep, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. That's what the Moss brothers are doing. The Moss brothers are trying to expand their brand, and it's damn the torpedoes and to hell with what the bottom line is. They'll go on the 100,000-mile planetary extravaganza, gas their players, but expand their brand. That's how they're wired. They want to expand the brand of the Herons and the pink and black worldwide. They want to be planetary with all these Messi 10s in pink. That's what they're doing. That is their thing. And the desire to do what Miami is doing, you better have somebody that's got a blank check and doesn't give two tinkers dams about the money he's spending and wants results. Literally, it's like Steinbrenner and the Yankees. Bring me the all-stars. Give me Winfield, give me Catfish Hunter, give me A-Rod, all of them. Give me all of them. You want to be the Yankees of the 1970s and 80s. Only certain folks are wired to do that, though. And if you, as a coach in Major League Soccer, want to go against your DNA as a franchise where you have development that would be stunted, unless those folks like Kevin Sullivan, who at the age of 14 is making waves, would be getting starts, and we're staring at him like guys like Noah Allen and Benja Kremoski, where you'd be doing all the running with the stars doing what they're doing. Stars do all the running, take the over, do it that way, bring up the kids from Union 2. You're going to plug the holes, and then when you do well, we're selling you on, and we're going to work the system all over again. It's a delicate dance. But, Rich, to your point, next round of expansion, whenever that happens, yes, I know you're investing in infrastructure, but right now, this is who you are. The economics have worked. And there are only certain teams that will spend and overly spend. Spend like it's setting it on fire. Philadelphia has not been built to do that way. And for your coach to say, as I'm taking your translation, do what Miami's doing, goes 180 degrees against what you've built. And to ask your owner and your sporting director to do that is detrimental, I think, to your long-term prospects. It's like having a player's coach and then having a disciplinarian when you fire the player's coach because you're not successful. You go from one extreme to the other. You get that whiplash and it doesn't turn out to be successful. So there were some things. There were some things, like I said, Jonathan Tannenwald got his interview with Jim Curtin. And once again, true to form, there are some things that, that I wanted to talk through this morning when it comes to that franchise. I know that it's a punching bag and it's a rival of Atlanta United. It's a rival of everybody, and everybody wants to punch Philadelphia. I get that. But when coaches come up publicly and try and encourage things that they shouldn't, and it doesn't seem like front office folks are sticking to their own philosophies when it comes to bringing in players, keep an eye on Philly, because running it back with the same group, you're a year older. You're a year older. Rich is saying, or at least be like your identical twin Cincinnati, where you're dropping 8 figures on, talent. And then you move on Bupenza. You move on Brenner. And you move on Brandon Vasquez for 6.5. What does Cincinnati do to reinvest that money? That's my question. Cincinnati found players in markets where they could make some economical moves. It's a little higher than what a lot of folks might be used to seeing. But you end up with those kinds of transactions with your twin in Cincy, or Philly Light, or Philly West, whatever you want to call them. Cincinnati has finally figured out their path after initially being god-awful. Wooden spoon, and now they've turned it around. They figured it out. But they figured it out in that way. They have invested. They've spent money. The folks that were involved early in the decision-making processes finally realized maybe we need to bring folks in that know what they're doing more than I do. Surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. Cincinnati appears to have done that. Now, what does Philly do with the continued development of their talent pool from the academy side? With all of these veterans, and I did not anticipate that this was going to be a deep dive into Philly this morning. But with the quotes that were made, it raised my eyebrows a little bit, and so that's why I'm spending as much time. We may not be spending as much time on Philadelphia next week, but when a coach says these kinds of things, first off, it makes me wonder why he stayed or came back in the first place. And you're now at this age crossroads with a lot of folks. Dell was watching Messi Meets America last night. Pretty good. But, yeah, it makes me wonder. Makes me wonder what they they weren't allowed to show. We'll get into – all right, so let me get into the other union stuff here. I made the show good. Thank you. Once heard a theory that the union front office is built on winning the way they're doing, that any deviation from that would be seen as a failure. Evolution. Evolution is revolution, just a little slower. Folks evolve. As you grow, you evolve, or at least you should. Wiley, glad I could make an actuary reference. We'll get into the Messi discussion here in a bit, Dell. We'll have that as a late question of the day. Dell wants to know, do you think Messi leaves after the season? I'll leave that up for those watching on the video side, and we'll talk about it in a bit. All right. Philly, age-wise. This is what we're looking at here. And I'll go by contract expiration date. Quinn Sullivan's a U22. Portella's a U22. Brendan Craig is a U22. Bedoya is 36. Andre Blake is 33. Michael Ua is 29. Damian Lowe is 30. Joaquin Torres, 27. Matt Real is 24. Leon Flock, injured, 22. Jose Martinez, 29. Jack Elliott, 28. Julian Carranza's 23. Raffanelo's 23. Holden Trent, 24. Isaiah LaFleur is 21, as is Jameer Berdesio. Those are all of your contracts that are ending after this year. 3 players, 30 and above. 2 more that are 29. That's ending this season. And you have 3, 6, 9. Good Lord. 3, 6, 9, 10 at Carranza. You have 14 contracts expiring at the end of this year. 3 players, the age 30 and above. After that, you've got younger players who are in their high 20s at most. Jacob Glesnes, the oldest, at 29. 3, 6, 9 players whose contracts end at the end of next season. Glesnes, Gazdag, Semley, Barabo, Harriel, McGlynn, and Gabo, Donovan, Pariano. Kai Wagner ends at 26. Jesus Bueno ends in 26. Macanya's 26. Marcus Anderson's 26. This year will be a transition year for you. 14 contracts ending at the end of this year. 130, 133, 136. Blake at 33. Keepers age, differently than position players. Alejandro Bedoya, I'm shocked he came back. So you are in a transition year in Philadelphia. Trying to figure out what to do with all of the minutes that you put on a lot of young legs last year, and you're having to do it again this year. And you got a coach who's not happy, that his front office isn't investing in the right way or investing enough or whatever. Like I said, I wonder at times why Curtin even came back. If he's this mad, why come back? Maddie is shocked Bedoya is coming back, especially after everything that went down. So that's where Philadelphia is. But like I said, when you have a manager saying what he said about Major League Soccer, kind of in a backhanded way, and I mean, yes, I know that coaches do this all the time, but make your comments more thinly veiled against your front office, not about the league. Because folks in the league do things in different ways. And they know how to. And the folks that want to spend money in certain ways spend money in certain ways. They can set it on fire. They can invest from within. They can find economical players. Or they can just, chase after veterans 30 plus and sit there and throw money after bad. Different ways to go about doing things. And legitimately, I think right now, even though I know that it's not going to happen, probably the best thing for you, Rich, is for your owners to sell. Maybe you get that infusion of capital like you saw in Houston. We saw what happened in Houston. They won a trophy. They knew something had to go down. But waiting for the next round of expansion fees and dues and things like that, like San Diego. San Diego should have given the Philadelphia front office the idea of, okay, that's our number. Someone will buy you in this marketplace. Major League Soccer is an asset that is increasing across the board. We mentioned it when we looked at the figures from Forbes. But right now, investments need to be made in players that fit your system and continue the development that you have. And your owners might have to get into the pockets a little bit to try to get you over the top, but I don't see it. That's why I think you won't go to the last game of the year in the conference this year. I think you'll make the postseason. But I think all of those minutes on all of those legs, once again, by Jim Curtin, who is going to rely on his veterans, especially late in the year, you're going to get found out. Thus endeth the dissertation on Philadelphia Union and spending in Major League Soccer and MLS as an asset and all these kinds of things. All right. Dealt with a question, like I said, for 10 minutes. Other news from Matty Cruz on the ones and twos. Darren Moore is the new head coach at Port Vale after being fired at Huddersfield. Do we think Messi leaves after this season? It's a 2.5-year deal. I think he's going to listen. I think if he listens to his body, Dell, I think that's the biggest question. If he listens to his body, that might be what tells him ahead of anybody else. That might be what tells him ahead of anybody else. And that will be the bigger indicator. I don't think I think that this year, and we'll probably get into it more again next week, but I think that this year is one of those situations where Messi and friends is bringing in all the friends. And he might do it for one more year. But remember, Noah Allen is doing all the running. Aviles is doing all the running. That's why you've brought in Redondo to do the running. I remember Noah Allen in Riyadh looking like he's trying to be the deep safety, trying to keep a corner from catching a bomb down the receiver from catching a bomb, just a fly route, just run a zero down the right sideline. You're going to see Noah Allen. You're going to see Aviles. And when Kremovsky gets healthy, you're going to see him. You're going to see Redondo doing a lot of that. They're going the other way. There's a reason the Moss brothers are dropping $8 million on Redondo from Argentinos Juniors. Run. All the offense is going this way. You're going the other way. You get rid of Kamal Miller. You get rid of Chris McVeigh. And Kristov was injured in Saudi Arabia briefly. But, yeah, it's like Aviles, Allen, Yedlin, Redondo. I'm not including Mr. Gressel in that conversation because he's a defensive liability. He might be doing running. How successful he will be in his running for Messi and friends, don't know. But that's why you got Redondo. And he's going to be a U22, I would imagine, and that's why you can get him under the cap. Because he's only going to be 200 and it's going to be $200,000 up against whatever the cap figure is. We don't know what that is. I'd love for Major League Soccer to let us know so we can follow along like we do with other leagues. So we can sit there and say, okay, well, this will fit, this will fit, this will fit. He's injured. He goes on long-term injured reserve. This will fit, this will fit, this will fit. We don't get that with Major League Soccer. And that's a pet peeve. We all sit there and look at LAFC and how they can bring in Chiellini and how they can bring in Bale and how they can bring in all the high-priced players and win a championship. That's great. How'd you do it? Oh, we fit it in under the cap. I'm aware of that. We did what the rules let us do. John Thorrington, in that regard, genius. Chris Henderson and his resident capologist, plus the conversations that are being had with David Beckham, Jorge Mas, and Lionel Messi, they're making it work. But for fans in Major League Soccer, I mean, this isn't like, Lex SC in USL League One where they signed Cameron Lancaster to a contract. It's the same kind of a thing. You don't know what the contract is, but you're bringing in high-priced talent into a league. You don't know what the number is. You don't know how it fits, and the skepticism remains because everything almost turns into an inside joke. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, how'd you do? Last year when you brought in Messi, yeah, you got it. He was a DP. You pay him whatever. The NIL deal in the neighborhood of $50 million. You get that. Alba and Busquets, you pay them what you're paying them while you still have Gregory that you can buy down. Then this year you bring in Luis Suarez, sure, for a 1-year deal. When it takes him 2 days to get his legs warmed up after a match because his knees are so shot. And now you bring in Redondo, probably as a U22. But like I said, Redondo I get. Redondo you can fit. You can figure that part out. But all the and friends is what turns this into this wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sure, yeah, the black helicopter theories. Major League Soccer, I think, would do itself a favor, a big favor, for those of us that cover it on a daily basis and talk about it on a daily basis. If we had the salary figures other than the MLSPA, which they put together, but how it all fits inside the salary structure and the purview and all of the rules. We know what the rosters are. We know who's supplementals. We know all the 30 roster spots. We know those. We don't know the salary figures. We don't know the cap. We don't know how all this stuff fits. It's doing a disservice to the growth of the league because fans want to be educated in all these kinds of things. They want to be educated in all these kinds of things. They really do. And we'd all have continually intelligent conversations about projects like Messi and Friends or LAFC or insert team here. If we had a better knowledge of the landscape, because then Rich would sit there and look at Philadelphia and go, damn, we've got so much space left under the cap that we could bring in somebody if we had owners that would want to invest. We could have those kinds of conversations in addition to the conversations that we have today. But until then, all these turn into our black helicopter, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, how'd you do conversations. But Dell, going back to your original question, does he leave after this season? I think it's a 2.5-year deal. So this would be 1.5. I think what they want, meaning the Moss brothers and Inter Miami and Messi and Friends, they want him to be that ambassador going into the new stadium. That's what I think they're looking for. They want him to be that ambassador heading into the planetary competition in 2026. They want him to be that bridge in the city. They want him to try to make it that much further. So they're going to continue to set money on fire if Messi comes back for 25. They will do that. I've heard Luka Modric. Once again, you buy down Gregory. He's a TAM. You sign Modric. He's a DP. Keep an eye on the summer window. Keep an eye on the summer window. That's where we are. Let's see. We talked Rubiales. We talked about Redondo. Champions League, remember the 2 matches at 3 o'clock. Ryan Clark. I've got to get into that before we go. Ryan Clark over at the Oregonian. And thank you, Rich. He goes, side note, this is why I found, loved, and stayed listening to SDH. Another soccer show in another city, but gives good talk and equal time to all teams. That's what we want to do. That's why we refer to ourselves as soccer's morning show. Hang on just a second. I have to hydrate. Because we get to grow the game every single day. We got conversations coming up with folks in League 2 in Dothan, Alabama. We get to be the home of the blast-off battle for an MLS Next Pro franchise. We get to see the growth in places like Statesboro, Georgia with South Georgia Tormenta. Everything in the USL League One footprint. Chattanooga Red Wolves, FC in Next Pro, Carolina Core in Next Pro, Greenville, Charlotte, Birmingham, Charleston. And that's just in the Southeast footprint. As someone who's 928 years old and as a journalist, you go where the stories are. And if the story's in Philly, as today it was, because in my daily reading, Jonathan Tannenwald caught up with Jim Curtin, and Jim Curtin said some things outside of game state that drew my eyebrow to raise. We bring it to the table. Because what we like to do here, we like to to be a part of the education process, the news process, the information process. And if the story's in Philly, the story's in Philly. The story's in Dothan, Alabama, the story's in Dothan, Alabama. If it's in Houston, we call Glenn Davis. If it's nationally, we call Kevin Egan. If it's in Nashville, we catch up with Lucas Panzica. Wherever the stories are, internationally, nationally, what have you, that's what we like to do here every day. That's what, like I said, that's why we call ourselves Soccer's Morning Show, because it's based in Atlanta. Yes, Atlanta United is the hammer, and all the stuff that we talk about on a daily basis, especially in season. But we can't let the journalism slide, because it's not fair to fans of the sport, because we all want the sport to grow. Those of us on this side of the mic, those on the other side of the mic. And the fact that you guys keep coming back here in season 8. We are 7 years old. We are in season 8 of SDH. We could not be more humbled that you guys keep coming back every day, that you're a part of the conversation every day, that we all learn from each other every day. To me, that's what's so cool about all of this. Derek, yeah, it would be nice to have transparency. Yep. Dell, might be hard for the family to leave if they start to love Miami, kids being involved with the academy. Yeah, so, well, I mean, Messi has this 8-figure condo on like a top floor that takes up like 2 floors of an office building or something, or a condo high-rise. So, he could still stay and be an ambassador for the planetary competition in 26 and maybe 27. He could still be there, and they just live in that place. Dell, we're going to track down Ben Pierman. Like I said, it might be a 1v1. If we can get him live, we'll get him live as we get closer to the USL season, USL Championship. But yes, Ben Pierman is on the hit list. He's on the list of folks that we're tracking down. Alex, I think you're right. Even post-Messi, Alex says, even post-Messi, I think Miami's all in on becoming the Galactabros. I think you're right. I think we should all start using that hashtag, by the way, the Galactabros. Jim Curtin, yes, tends to say some wild things. Dell, yes, it is season ocho. It is season ocho here at SDH. All right, so let me get into the Ryan Clark thing before we go. It has to do with Andy Polo. And Andy Polo, by the way, was the only goal scorer in the Independiente Alianza Lima match this past weekend down in Peru. And you can get Peruvian matches every single week at Fanatis. FNTZ.co/soccer down here. Helps out the show, helps out the network. And you get to see Brasileiro, Peru, Liga 1 Max, all the BNs. You get CDO for the fans, Gold TV, Teise, all that stuff. Boatload of games every single day at FNTZ, Fanatis, FNTZ.co/soccer down here. Like I said, helps them out, helps us all out. Okay, so a Multnomah County jury has awarded Genesis Alarcon $600,000 in a civil lawsuit against former Portland Timbers player Andy Polo. Once again, this is lawyering down here. The jury determined Polo liable for assault and battery against his former partner. Story at OregonLive.com. Polo called into Circuit Judge Thomas Ryan's courtroom for the trial, but was argumentative with the judge who muted Polo, according to Alarcon's attorney, Michael Fuller. And this was released yesterday. Alarcon sued Polo 2 years ago, saying he had pushed her to the ground, grabbed her arm, pulled her hair in front of their 2 children during a dispute inside their Beaverton apartment on May 23rd, 2021, according to her suit. Prosecutors declined to file criminal charges against Polo, who was booted from the Timbers in the wake of the allegations and now plays in Peru, as we were discussing. This is from the article from Zane Sparling at the Oregonian. Civil attorney Michael Fuller said the jury heard recordings of the fight and testimony from a concerned friend, Grace Trujillo, who called 911 to report the fight. Alarcon testified remotely. Timbers Holding Company had settled with Alarcon privately months after she sued Peregrine and Polo. Polo then fired his own attorneys, failed to appear in court in September 22, leading him to lose the case by default, court records show. But a new attorney for Polo successfully reversed the default judgment. Case went to trial back on Monday of last week. Polo called into Circuit Judge Thomas Ryan's courtroom for the trial, but was argumentative. We mentioned the muting. Polo then disconnected from the courtroom and didn't present any evidence during the trial. Unclear if Polo will appeal the verdict. His last listed attorney, Pedro Zuberia, didn't immediately respond to a request for comment. So that was Life and Times of Andy Polo. Also, let's see what to watch, where to watch it before we go, and we'll bring in Maddie in the ones and Maddie Cruz and the ones and twos to get her thoughts before we go as well. Just on a very lawyering down here kind of a day, and it was just one of those game analysis, team analysis days. So soccer on TV. Where to watch it, how to watch it. You know how to watch all the wild stuff. Being in Espanol, 7:30, Copa Libertadores. CBS, Manchester City, big CBS, Manchester City, Copenhagen at 3. The CONCACAF Hemispheric Extravaganzas on FS2 at 10 with Chivas and Forge, the back end of the second leg. 2 to NA has Guadalajara, Chivas, and Forge. They've also got Leipzig and Real Madrid at 3. Unimas is simulcasting Leipzig and Real Madrid. The Plus has Bristol City and Southampton at 3 o'clock. Great article in the Telegraph about Russell Martin and his time now as a head coach at Southampton, where he wants to play out of the back. And folks are looking at him with an eyebrow raised. Fox Soccer Plus, women's Italian Serie A, Roma and Sassuolo has gotten underway. If you want to watch Sampdoria, the Della Peruta sisters, Talia and what's the other one? Della Peruta, Tori and Talia Della Peruta. Local products here in Georgia. Sampdoria now in Serie A Feminine. Paramount Plus, we missed the Asian Champions League match between Shandong Taishan and Kawasaki Frontal. They've got the Copa de la Liga in Argentina, quadruple header, 3, 5:15, and 2 at 7:30. And they've got both Champions Leagues. VIX has both Champions League matches as well. So that's all the information for today. And so we bring in Maddie Cruz on the ones and twos. I did not anticipate that the show was going to go in the direction that it did, Maddie, but we ended up doing almost like a Forbes valuation day when it came to everything.
Hey, you know what? It was interesting. And, you kind of took away, like, it was nice. Like, I was, like, really intently listening. Like, there was a certain point where I was, like, just, like, listening, and I was like, oh, gosh. I was like, I still need to be looking at stuff. I was intrigued.
Well, like I said, it's just this kind of analysis. When you see something like this, we've got the time and space to look at it, and so that's what we always try to do is devote time and space and do deeper dives when it's important to the game and important to listening to what someone says and then exploring why they say it and possible solutions as to what they've said in certain situations. And so, yeah, when I read the Tannenwald interview with Jim Curtin, like I said, I know that here on this show, Philadelphia is a team that folks ish on because of their style of play. I wanted to get away from that because we're not into the season yet, and Atlanta United hadn't played Philadelphia, but get into the comments of the coach and get into the franchise and what's going on in the coach's mind, and having Rich as our translator for Philadelphia Union is always helpful as well.
Absolutely. And I mean, even just like, especially with the talks of how the league is growing and how it's developing, I think it's important to have conversations like that because, if we were looking at this like a couple years ago, it'd be a completely different story. But now, like, you have these clubs who are bringing in these huge players with like huge numbers. You got Messi, obviously looking at Inter Miami, not the best example because, they're bringing in a lot of these players and who knows how sound they'll be for the actual season. But, it's looking at the differences in how certain leagues do certain things. And it was interesting to hear what Jim said about it. It's strange because of what he's trying to do. And I get that it's weird with the front office and everything. I understand that. But do you really want to be like an Inter Miami who's spending ass loads of money and not get anything from it? You got to look at the pros and cons there. And so I think it's really interesting.
Well, with Messi and friends specifically, it's all about growing that brand and getting that stadium built and being recognized as this global magnet for football, and that's what they're looking at. I mean, David Beckham, the Moss brothers, Messi and friends, all the folks that they bring in, they want to be known as Messi and friends, or Inter Miami CF once Messi goes, but they want to be known globally. Inter Miami wants to be known globally as this force in the sport, and so that's why you do the 100,000-mile planetary extravaganza and exhibition tour and get your ass handed to you. But when you have matches in Hong Kong against Hong Kong team, and your merch line is out the door, and you're selling practically everything that you put on site, that's what you're looking for here. You're trying to grow your brand at the expense of early season training, and you end up doing a barnstorming tour and you get your butt handed to you. So it's all about growing a young brand with Messi and friends. I get it, but that's their way of doing things. Like I said, Chicago's setting money on fire in an entirely different way. LAFC is setting money on fire and being imaginative about it with John Thornton, their GM. Messi and friends doing it their way. Atlanta's doing it their way. There are different ways to have success. But Philadelphia, I think, is at a point where they have to adapt. They have to evolve. There has to be some evolution here, and it's probably going to take new owners to do it.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Like, you can't develop a team like out of thin air. You know, it takes time to like grow it and develop it.
Yeah.
I think Coach Curtin trying to sit there and just be like, but I want this now. It's like, that's great, but you can't have it now. Like, that's something that waits.
I wanted a pony when I was 6. I'm still waiting.
I know. It takes time.
Yeah, so ponies take time. All right, so tonight you and Jason are Clarkston and McIntosh down in Peachtree City.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun.
And it'll be on the network probably a little before 6 o'clock. Some very familiar voices will be discussing things, and we'll be talking about that at the beginning of a very, very busy week with us on the live. Clarkston and McIntosh tonight. It is now Carrollton and Johns Creek, one game on Thursday night, and then once again the double double main event lives, the 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock Eastern from Blastoff Battle on Friday, and then the game of the week, the solo varsity boys game, Chapel Hill and Alexander on the social medias. So our friends at Mixler and our social medias are going to get very, very busy. So how's the studying going, by the way, getting ready for tonight?
It's going good. Doing some research, just looking into some of the rosters, seeing what I can find. And yeah, gearing up because, I have this. I got this tonight. I got KSU Lax on Thursday.
Yeah.
And then we have Chapel Hill and Alexander on Friday. And then we got Blastoff Battle Saturday and Sunday. So we'll be prepping. We're prepping all week.
Yes, prepping all week. All right. So for Maddie and for everybody here, once again, fantastic conversations today. Back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow. Hopefully Dylan Butler can join us at 10 o'clock to discuss things. That's the official term. For Maddie, I'm John. Play it safe. We'll be back at it again in a little under 22 hours. Mucho platial. Since it's the end of the show, that means I officially get to do this. If I can find it in a timely fashion, which I'm never able to do. Time to say goodbye. I'll be back at it. Remember, tonight, 6 o'clock, a little before, Clarkston at McIntosh here on SDH.